Ta-da!
I feel much shorter than you. Significantly.
Because you are shorter. I think you're just used to people not realizing that I'm like over half a foot taller than you.
Yes, but you look considerably more.
Ow!
So sorry!
You're used to being on the other side, huh?
Yeah.
I have a hole in my nose, so I'm over here.
You literally positioned your body so no one would see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, we did not have a video last week because our power was out for like
5 days.
Like 5.5 days. It came back last Monday. And so we were out of town. We just dipped out and went to go see friends. And then we came back and we're like, let's not force ourselves through this. So there was no video last week, but we are still planning on keeping things weekly. Sorry about the delay, but I figure most of the week with no power probably is a pretty decent explanation for taking a week off. So there has been a lot of news in the world of Disney this week, and there's also been a lot of panic in the fandom of Disney this week. And I found that I have a position of calm about the panic.
You have a good hot take.
I don't know if it's a hot take. I feel like it's a pretty I feel like it's a pretty reasonable take while everyone else is freaking out. So,
okay.
And I found that Jean mostly agreed with me, so we figured we'd talk about it together, and that it would make a fun video. So, this is a video about why we don't think that Genie Plus and Lightning Lane are horrible things, making a pay-to-win fastpass, or ruining Disney and its perks.
Yeah, we're basically going to talk about how we're actually pretty happy about it.
Basically, Disney spent the last 5 years, it has not been secret, developing an app that uses artificial intelligence and computer learning to basically help people curate their vacation. And a lot of people, I think I was very nervous about it initially because so much of Disney World stuff the last 10 years has been incredibly pre-planning based. It's been make a reservation, a dining reservation 6 months beforehand, and make fastpass reservations 2 or 3 months beforehand, and it's been a lot. And so, basically, originally people were is this just gonna give me recommendations of how to book all of that? So this past week they announced it, and that's not actually how it's going to function. Basically, it's intelligent system that while you're in the park will give you and everyone else unique notifications and things like that to basically help you decide what to do and where to go. It will give you examples of, hey, now's a lull if you're hungry because I noticed you haven't eaten yet today. If you want to go and eat something, there's this place that kind of fits your taste that's not far from you. Or, hey, there's a shorter wait time for this ride than normal in the area that you're in. Which from the ground level just seems okay, whatever, right? It just gives you recommendations. And also has a paid version that basically allows you to make return times similar to what FastPass Plus used to be for attractions on the day of. So basically at 7 a.m. you can go and get return times for one attraction for later in the day, and then, after that, kind of like the fastpass plus system used to work.
Disney made a video explaining how all this is going to work, and you can see how this experience actually works.
Yeah.
And I think that actually does a really good job summarizing it. And I'm really excited to talk about this because I'm actually an experience designer. I know that we've talked about that before on this channel.
Yeah, do you want to talk about what you do?
Yeah, so what I do is I design systems and experiences for different pieces of software. Basically, this app is kind of like my dream as an experience designer. It really takes the best that technology can offer and applies it to the thinking that you should have when you go to a Disney park. Charlotte talked a lot about this pre-planning aspect of going to Disney. And I went to Disney for the first time 2 years ago. And the first thing I learned is there wasn't a lot of room for spontaneity. And I did not quite realize the amount of work that Charlotte put in ahead of our trip to plan out this trip. She picked out all the restaurants, she picked out all the fast passes, she picked out not just the hotel and the parks that we were going to, but she picked it out. She knew where we were eating 3 times a day. And I was like, when we got there, I was like, there's so many things at this park to experience, and it's just, we didn't have any of that spontaneity. There were a couple things throughout our trip where we were able to move them, or some days where we were like, too full for this thing we planned, or too tired for this, so we could cancel. But it didn't give us there wasn't a way to add things. There was more a way to remove things.
Yeah. It was really sad that, often, you were like, ooh, can we do this thing? And I'm like, we could, if you knew about it and had asked me if we could do it 3 to 6 months ago, and you were like, what even?
And if you really think about families that go to Disney, you're really looking at probably families with children, and when you have children, you gotta be flexible. Your plans don't always go as planned, and really this app will give people an opportunity to make on-the-fly choices, as well as Disney to guide people through the parks better. So what I'm really excited about is the fact that Disney really took all that learning they had from the Magic Bands. And yes, those Magic Bands were not just there to check things out at the parks. They also knew where you were and kept crowd control issues. So Disney has years of knowledge of how people navigate the parks. Not a specific person per se, they can't pull up Jane and see exactly all the steps I took, I think. But they, for the most part, can see, where did Jane go, and did Jane go to crowded places? What did she do and why? And they can really start to understand, if I liked this thing, what else am I also going to like?
You call those user profiles, right, in your work?
So we call them personas.
Personas, okay.
Personas, and then we also look at user journeys. So really looking at, what is the journey of a typical Disney goer? Is there a typical Disney goer? And let's be real here. Disney has millions of dollars to invest in this research, and they have awesome experience designers that, just because I'm thinking about it for my job, they're also thinking about it for Disney. And so really, they took all that knowledge and put it in this app for people. They wouldn't have done it if it was going to suck. I mean, maybe they would have, but...
Well, I think part of it is that it fills a very different role than the fastpass system did. So, do you mind if I, do a very fast... Okay. So, the history of, how fastpass came about in Disney ticketing. So, right, initially, Disney World opened. There's a system where basically you get a ticket book. So you didn't get, a ticket to the park. You bought tickets to rides, and you had rides are put in classifications, and so basically you had to spend those tickets. It was kind of like a carnival, but if a carnival had tiered tickets, and they were labeled A through E tickets. That's why you'll hear Disney fans use the term E-ticket attraction to describe the newest, biggest, whatever thing that people want.
Oh, I didn't know that.
E-ticket was like the top level. And it's actually really funny if you look at the things that were considered e-tickets, then a lot of them aren't anymore. But then they got rid of that, and then it was just you paid a general park admission and then you came in. And then they decided that they wanted to have more perks for staying on site, and they wanted to have like some kind of streamlining bonus and something to use for events and so they added the fastpass system. Also, part of the fastpass system, I believe, based on the timing of when it came about, I think it also has to do with like the ADA, right? They wanted to have a separate line for people to be able to go in and have a fast track line. In order to do that, they were like, well, let's use this other line for other things. So I'm not 100% certain on that, but the timing really lines up. So the original fastpass system, you'd put your ticket in a turnstile, and or not a turnstile, think about when you go to a parking garage now and you go and you prepay, right? It's basically exactly that. You put in their ticket card, you got out a little literal paper ticket, and you had to do it for each person in your family. Those all had a return time on it, and then you'd come back. Usually e-ticket attractions, their fast passes would disappear within the first hour of opening, and then other ones would kind of dwindle through the day, and it was a way to intersperse. It also allowed them, cast members, if the ride broke down, they could give you a fast pass to come back later. They could give you people would trade them to each other in the Year of a Million Wishes, right? Was the Millennium Celebration. They had, oh boy, they would actually give them out as part of the rewards that they'd give to random people coming in based on what person number you were visiting that year. Which was pretty cool. And so that system changed out about 10 years ago for the FastPass Plus system. The FastPass Plus system let you pre-book a FastPass. But because people use the old system different ways, right? There are people who just go get that one e-ticket in the morning and ride it out till the evening. And then there were other families who would go and just get fast passes for smaller attractions, and they could get a lot more through the day. They decided to have, they decided to let people pre-book one e-ticket attraction and then two smaller attractions or differently tiered attractions in each park. And because of that, and because they then needed availability for that for everyone, they added dramatically more fast passes to the pool. And what this did was it made it so that the fast pass line was constantly chugging in a way it had never been before. So much so that it actually began to slow down standby lines. If you go and you've been to Disney World over 10 years ago and you've gone recently, you've probably noticed that way more often now you see lines that are 2, 3, 4 hours long when that almost never happened in Disney before. And that's partially because of the fast pass system, and because it's partially also because of overcrowding, but mostly because of the fast pass system, and there needs to be quotas, right? Every so often, basically every so many people that they let through from the standby queue, they have to let this many people in from the fast pass queue, which slows everything down.
I also think it's a big deal that they wanted to guarantee everyone a fast pass, but that meant that if you didn't book it at exactly the right time, you really couldn't get on the good rides unless you were willing to wait that time.
Yeah, unless you were willing to wait 3 or 4 hours.
So I think for families that are trying to go together, it made it a lot harder to go on a Disney trip. You can't just say 2 months before you want to go on a vacation, hey, let's go to Disney, because your trip's gonna suck. And for a lot of families, they don't plan vacations 2, 3, 4 years out. And the ones that don't know that planning their Disney vacation is going to be so much effort. So it really, I think this FastPass system that they developed actually hurt a lot of people's first Disney experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Unless you had someone that was booking your trip for you.
Yeah. The other issue with it is it really did create this feeling in a lot of Disney fans that if you don't have a fast pass, you can't ride big name attractions, right? effectively, like, you have to have this huge commitment. It has to be part of half of your day, and then you go and you do the mental math, and you're saying, wow, I paid $30 to ride this one ride, right? And I think that, you know, has created a lot of the panic that people are feeling right now with the new system. So I think one of the major benefits of the system is that it will decrease, like, dramatically decrease wait times, especially for, like, e-ticket attractions. So just through the nature of decreasing fastpass usage alone.
With the free experience that they're offering.
Even with the free experience, just having that system there, you're going to benefit already.
Yeah.
The other benefit, too, is that because of the intelligent recommendations it gives, right, it'll tell you, right, rather than you looking at your app, trying to beeline across the park because you know that wait's going to be 3 hours and you want to start it now, right, it'll start notifying people where they are, like, hey, there's a Tiki Room show about to start, hey, the Jungle Cruise wait just dropped to, like, the people near there. It's not going to give the same recommendations to everyone, and what that'll do is it'll really spread those, like, already standby wait times out among, like, all the attractions in the park. And that should also decrease wait times a lot. I think the other benefit I really see, one of the things that people are really complaining about is, like, the paid system, but honestly, I think that if wait times for attractions, right, go back to what they used to be, of 30 minutes to an hour for almost everything, then I think, like, the need for fast passes goes down dramatically. So just out of having that free system, right, like, I think it's fine, but also, you know, if you are a person who's stressed because you're like, well, you know, I go for a 2-day trip, and, like, I, like, you know, am worried about doing, and I, like, want to do every single attraction I remember liking every single trip I go, then, like, you're a person who, like, probably would choose to buy into that system. But I think, like, the majority of people won't, and I think that's what will allow it to function. One of the other things people are complaining about is the inclusion of Lightning Lane, which is a paid, it's basically, like, a paid fast pass, like, you pay per person, per ride going for the big name attractions. They've since given more information about how this is going to work, and basically what it seems like it's going to be is in each park, the two, like, newest, biggest attractions, like the two attractions that get, like, right now 3+ hour waits, those are going to go into a tiered system or into a different system where basically, like, people are paying, like, $15 a person just to get a fast pass for that ride. So if it's your one day of your, like, you want to only go to Disney one day ever, and you really want to make sure you get on Flight of Passage, like, you'd probably pay the $15. It's probably worth it to you. But what that means is that those lines that extra need the decrease in standby times will get, like, a much more marked reduction in the standby times, even if you get people buying into the system, the base system, more than Disney expects.
I think that's a big deal. I think the other biggest benefits that they've considered is for people with disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
So they're making a big change to how they're treating DAS passes. So I don't know what DAS stands for, but the passes for...
Disability Access Service.
Oh, it stands for that.
Yep.
But currently the system allowed you to have fast passes every day, but then to use the DAS pass, you would have to walk all the way to the ride, find the line, then get a return time and come back when they told you to return. Mm-hmm. Now, this is great. Like, it's great that Disney allows you not to wait in line, but for people with disabilities, like, walking all the way to the park just to ensure that they might be able to ride something later, and then having to find a place to go to hang out also required more walking, more planning. It's exhausting. Like, it's great not to have to stand in line because you physically can't, but getting to that ride, it's just already so much effort. It's already exhausting.
Yeah, I know if you go back and you watch our vlogs from our last trip, on, like, the morning we went to Animal Kingdom, when we got there, I'm like, okay, Jane, just go get a return time for Flight of Passage. It was, like, the first thing that we did. And you came back in years.
I did.
Because you had to find your way through this, like, massive crowd. And, you know, I mean, if you don't, like, know, Jane has, like, attention deficit disorder and gets really overwhelmed from, like, crowds and things that are hard to process. And so, like, she was so stressed by the time she went, and she found her way past the line where, like, the end of it was, like, on a different island. And she had to go and find her way all the way to the front of it, and then find her way all the way back through this field of people that was moving towards her.
Yeah, they usually give them to you at the end, but the line was 3.5 hours long at this point, and the person back there was so overwhelmed, they sent me to the front. But because the line was so long, they, like, had closed off, roped off sections, and everyone was being rude for me going around, and I'd never been there before.
Yeah.
Honestly, I hated Animal Kingdom, and I didn't want to go back because of it.
Yeah, because of this one experience.
Because of this one experience, and it's not Disney's intention.
So how does it work now?
So now you'll be able to go into the app and actually select that you'd like a return time, and the app will tell you when to come back based on what the wait is. And then I believe they'll put you through that new fastpass or lightning queue, which is fantastic because already as a disabled person, like, when we get in line, like, don't think that our waits are shorter. First, it takes us longer to get to the ride. It takes us longer to get to the park. Like, you know, it takes us more planning. We have to wait for the one seat on the bus that's accessible. And then we get through, and it takes us 2 to 3 times longer to get through security. And then we get into the park, and we get this return time. We get into this lightning lane, and then to get an accessible car, we're usually in line behind 3 or 4 other people. It sometimes can take us another, like, even though the wait time, so, like, let's say we got a 2-hour return time, we'll get there, and then it'll be 20 minutes through that fast pass lane, and then it'll be another 40 minutes to wait for the accessible car. We, you know, will have waited longer than the people in the regular queue. Most
of the people on, like, the DAS system have the DAS because they can't wait in a loud or sunny or whatever the conditions are environment for that long. And so it really has put a drain on the accessibility system. So the other change too is that, so you used to have to go in order to, like, renew your DAS, right? Your DAS is good for 20 days, I think, after you use it. And then to renew it, you have to go the first day of your trip to guest services within the park. It can't be guest services anywhere else in Disney World. It has to be one of the ones in the front of one of the 4 parks. And then you talk to a member there. You have to wait in line there with everyone else who, like, has, you know, all their questions. You wait in line there, and then they can renew your profile and connect to your party. Now you'll be able to do that via an app. They basically will give you, like, a video phone interview. Just to, like, you know, ask you the questions, and then to, like, connect up the profiles of everyone you're traveling with.
Which means you can do it in your hotel room.
Yeah.
Which is a huge deal for disabled guests that are already overwhelmed after going through some public transit system that, like, you know, it's new to them, or even if you've done it before, like, it's still overwhelming as a disabled guest.
Yeah.
And the front gates of the park are also always super, super busy, so it kind of, like, skips a step in a stressful period. And also, like, the person at the front of the park that handles that isn't always the best equipped to handle it, so it should probably help with, like, training and things like that for Disney to actually, like,
have a specialized staff working.
Yeah. To treat accessible, like, to actually ask the questions that are allowed by the ADA and not make any assumptions or, like, wrong questions. So I think it's going to make a huge difference. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. And I think the reason I'm most excited too, which might sound a little counterintuitive until I explain it, is that I think that this will help, like, in the future, in the next 10 years, keep the costs of going to Disney down. Because it's no secret that there's been a massive inflation, like, throughout the last 20 years in the price of, like, a Disney vacation. Like, ticket prices especially have been skyrocketing, and part of that is issues with overcrowding, right? The reality is that, like, especially during, like, busy times of year, parks have been, like, getting to or near capacity far more often, and frankly, I think that although the capacities that they're given were reasonable if all the space is utilized, because the way people move through the parks, that capacity hasn't actually felt sufficient, right? We saw literally like 2 years ago in Disneyland, right, when they reached capacity, and people were just literally standing against each other in the streets, because, like, yes, it's fire rated because there's all these other spaces for people to expand to, but, like, they weren't doing that.
Yeah, they have to get there.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I think is the benefit of this system is that it really is going to, like, spread people out. Like, the goal, if it works, right, the goal is to get people, hey, you guys, how about you go to dinner right now? Hey, you guys, how about you go to the show that's been empty for the last hour? Hey, right, and try to, like, really, it's, you know, when you go to a show at Disney and they're like, please move to the end of the row and use up all available seating. It's like that for the park. And so I think that if this helps with the overcrowding issue, then we'll probably stop seeing, or at least the dramatic price hikes we have been seeing every year will hopefully start to go down soon.
It also, I think, provides a different way for Disney to give benefits to people staying at their hotels, because while this doesn't come with a lot of benefits for the people staying at hotels, it will start to. Mm-hmm. They can really start to do special things. They can guide you towards, like, resort member only things. They can show you things that are happening at the hotels. Like, it really gives Disney an opportunity to spread people out everywhere.
I think it also leaves more room too for, like, attraction sponsorships, right? Like, I think one of the benefits that a lot of attractions have when they, like, become a sponsor is that there's often, like, special lounges for their employees when their employees visit the park and all these kinds of things like that. But I find, it seems, at least to me, that those have been becoming less and less utilized through the years, because I remember going to, like, the General Motors lounge that was in Test Track as a kid, and thinking that was, like, the coolest thing ever. And so I feel like, you know, if, you know, eventually they have a, like, place to, like, mark that you're an employee of one of these companies and, like, you know, for it to, like, recommend that to people, I think that might bring in more sponsor money to the park. The other cool thing, too, is that this will, like, fuse well with, the new Walkup dining system that they've added. So, like,
mobile ordering.
Yeah, mobile ordering. But, like, over the last year, they've added a system, so rather than, like, constantly refreshing the reservations page in your phone, they actually have, like, walk-up wait lists, and so when you look at a restaurant, you can see if, like, they expect to maybe have a table open that they didn't expect to before, and you can put yourself on that wait list. And so now it'll be able to, like, recommend it for you. You won't have to, like, sit there and keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and be like, eating in this place is a high priority for me, see if you can make it happen, and it'll like, the computer will tell you.
I think it's gonna bring back the magic to Disney. I'm really excited. And, like, when's this come out?
It has been given a release date of this fall.
So we're gonna go to the parks in January, hopefully.
Yep.
As long as all is well. With everything we have going on in life, but we're hoping to go for our honeymoon, so we'll report back and
give you a review.
Tell you how magical this magic feels.
Yeah, I'm really hoping it'll help a lot. And I'm also hoping that, like, the dining reservations don't go back to 6 months. Right now, during the pandemic, they've reduced the, like, amount of time you reserve to 2 months from 6 months, and I really hope that just stays forever.
Yeah. Because let me tell you, it's been really stressful to have to think about planning an entire Disney vacation on top of our wedding.
Yep.
And lots of people go to Disney for their honeymoons, so planning your Disney vacation shouldn't be as hard as planning your wedding. People hire people for that. Disney planners, your job's hard.
So, you know, I think that Disney Genie's system is actually going to be good for guests. I think it's going to add value to a basic ticket. Even if you're not buying into the Genie Plus system, I think that the Genie Plus system will probably hold about the value it's worth. I don't think it's necessary for, like, the average visitor. I really don't. I don't think that this is, like, taking fastpass and making it paid. I think they just decided, hey, we don't need the fastpass promotion anymore, and at this point it's holding us back and kind of slowing down the park. But but it'd be nice to have it there for the people who want it, and to also be able to leave up the infrastructure that it created. So I think this is going to be good, and I'm excited to try it in January.
Yeah, we'll report back.
Yeah, we'll report back. Anyway, let us know what you think in the comments below, if we're absolutely horrible, or if you agree with some of it. If you want a little bit more eloquent version, there's also a Reddit post, or a Reddit comment that I made about this, and I'll link that in the comments too.
Yeah. Bye!
Alright, bye! Have a good week, you guys.